They said, "We're family," like it was a threat. I refused to transfer 60% of my salary to him. The door slammed, bruises formed. Then at 3 a.m., HR emailed, "Someone just requested to change your payroll account." That's when I knew this game wasn't just about family anymore. It was about records, signatures, server logs, and a clean revenge. My name is Nora Vale, and this is how I learned that family isn't defined by blood, but by boundaries. The kitchen smelled like burnt coffee and disappointment that Tuesday evening. Rex sat at our cramped dining table, his thick fingers drumming against the fake wood surface. My mother stood behind him, her hands on his shoulders like she was presenting a united front. The paycheck stub lay between us, my paycheck stub from Northbrook Dynamics, where I worked as a compliance and internal control specialist. 60%, Rex said, pushing a crumpled paper toward me. It was a direct deposit authorization form, already filled out with his account information at Halden Holdings. That's fair, considering all we've done for you. I stared at the form. The account number stared back, XXX74. My stomach churned, not from the reheated Chinese takeout congealing on my plate, but from the audacity. "I already give you $800 a month for rent," I said, keeping my voice steady. Years of compliance work had taught me to document everything, including conversations. "That's more than fair for a bedroom in Stonehaven." "We're family," my mother said, her voice carrying that particular tone that made the word sound like a prison sentence. "Family shares. Family doesn't demand 60% of someone's income." I pushed the form back across the table. "This conversation is over." Rex's face darkened. The drumming stopped. "You ungrateful?" "Rex," my mother's warning came too late. His hand swept across the table, sending my plate crashing to the floor. Sweet and sour sauce splattered across the linoleum like abstract art. I stood up, chair scraping. "Sign it," he growled. Standing too, at 6'3" and 250 pounds, Rex Halden was used to getting his way through sheer physical presence. "Or get out." "Then I'll get out." I turned toward my room to pack. The shove came from behind, sending me into the wall hard enough to rattle the generic landscape painting my mother bought at a garage sale. My shoulder took the brunt of it, pain shooting down my arm. "You're not going anywhere until you sign," Rex said. I turned, back against the wall. "Touch me again and I'll call the police." "With what phone?" He held up my cell. Must have grabbed it from the table. "Sign the form. Nora, stop being difficult." My mother stood there, arms crossed. "Just sign it. We're family." That word again, family, like it justified everything, like it was supposed to make me forget the past 18 months of temporary loans that were never repaid, the guilt trips when I bought myself anything nice, the constant reminders that I owed them for putting a roof over my head, a roof I paid rent for. No. The second shove was harder. This time I went down, knee hitting the floor with a crack that sent stars across my vision. Rex loomed over me, form in hand. Last chance. I looked up at him, then at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "We're family," she said to the wall. I grabbed the counter, pulled myself up. My knee screamed, shoulder throbbed. But I walked past them both, grabbed my work laptop bag from the hook by the door, and limped out into the night. "You'll be back," Rex shouted after me. "You always come crawling back." Not this time. This time, I had audit trails to follow. Jamie's apartment smelled like vanilla candles and the faint hint of her boyfriend's cologne. She took one look at me disheveled, favoring my left leg. Laptop bag clutched like a lifeline and pulled me inside without a word. "Tea or wine?" she asked, already heading to the kitchen. "Wine, definitely wine." My sister and I shared a mother but not much else, where I got our mother's tendency to overthink. Jamie inherited our maternal grandmother's backbone of steel. She poured 2 generous glasses of Pinot Noir while I collapsed onto her couch. "Let me guess," she said, handing me a glass. "Rex?" I nodded, took a sip. The wine burned less than my shoulder. What was it this time? Another investment opportunity. A new truck. 60% of my salary, direct deposit to his account. Jamie nearly choked on her wine. 60 Jesus. Nora, please tell me you didn't sign anything. Of course not. That's why. I gestured at myself. We need to document this. Jamie was already grabbing her phone. Photos, now. She was right. In my line of work, documentation was everything. I rolled up my sleeve, revealing the bruise already forming on my shoulder. Jamie photographed it from multiple angles, had me write the date and time on a piece of paper to include in the shots. We did the same for my knee. You know this isn't the first time he's pulled financial shit, Jamie said, uploading the photos to a cloud drive. Remember the Macy's card? I didn't. What Macy's card? 2 years ago, he used Mom's information to open a store credit card, maxed it out on electronics, sold them for cash. Mom paid it off to keep the peace. She never told me. Of course she didn't. Can't have her golden child knowing the truth about her precious Rex. Jamie's voice dripped bitterness. There's more. The car loan she co-signed that he defaulted on. The utilities at his old place that were in her name when he skipped town. She's been cleaning up his messes for years. My phone, still in Rex's possession, was probably blowing up with their calls. But my work phone that was in my laptop bag, I pulled it out, seeing the notification that made my blood run cold. What is it? Jamie asked. I showed her the email timestamp 3:47 a.m. From HR Payroll at Northbrook Dynamics. Subject Payroll Account Change Request Confirmation. Dear Miss Vale, we've received a request to change your direct deposit information from account ending in 532 to account ending in 774. This change was submitted through our employee self-service portal at 2:53 a.m. from IP address 76.234 or 5.88. If you did not authorize this change, please contact HR immediately. That son of a bitch, Jamie breathed. But I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. What? Jamie asked. Why do you look like that? Because Rex just made a huge mistake. He tried to play in my arena. I opened my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm a compliance specialist. Jamie, I investigate fraud for a living, and Rex just left digital footprints all over my company's servers. So you'll report it and get your account fixed? Big deal. He'll just try again. No, I pulled up our corporate security portal. I'm going to let him think he's winning. Then I'm going to bury him in paperwork. Jamie refilled our wine glasses. I'm listening. At Northbrook Dynamics, I wasn't just any compliance specialist. I was the person who designed our internal fraud detection protocols. Every payroll change, every access attempt, every keystroke on our self-service portal was logged, stamped, and stored. Rex had no idea what he'd walked into. First thing, I told Jamie, I need to check something. I logged into our admin panel using my elevated access credentials. There it was, the attempted payroll change. Rex had tried to use a password reset function, probably thinking my security questions would be easy to guess. The system showed 3 failed attempts before he somehow got in. How did he access your account? Jamie asked, reading over my shoulder. I pulled up the security logs, their password reset requested via email, but not my work email, my personal one. He has my phone, I said. He must have used it to access my personal email, then used that to reset my work portal password. Is that enough to nail him? It's a start, but I want more. I navigated to the IP logs. This IP address, 76.234.45.88. Let me trace it. The lookup came back to a business Halcyon Fix-It, a computer repair shop in downtown Stonehaven. I knew the place. Rex was buddies with the owner, often hung out there pretending to know about computers. He used their public Wi-Fi, I said. Amateur move. Those shops have cameras. So report him now. Get him arrested. No, I closed the laptop. First, I build a case. A real one. Corporate security. Local PD. Maybe even federal, since he crossed state lines electronically to access company servers. Rex thinks family is a get-out-of-jail-free card. I'm going to show him it's not. Jamie studied me. This isn't like you. You're usually the peacekeeping one. That's the problem. I've been keeping the peace while they've been stealing my paychecks. I stood, testing my knee. It held. I'm done being peaceful. Where are you going? To get a hotel room and start my documentation. Can I borrow your phone? I need to call Carol from HR. We went to college together. She'll help me set up monitoring on my account without fully reporting it yet. Jamie handed over her phone. Nora, be careful. Rex is a bully who's about to learn what happens when you attack someone who fights with spreadsheets and subpoenas. I paused at the door. Thanks for the wine. And the photos. Upload them to my secure drive. Password is Mom's maiden name plus my hire date. That's ironic, considering, isn't it? The Marriott downtown had seen better days, but it had two things I needed: security cameras in the hallways and Wi-Fi that didn't require me to log my real name. I checked in under my middle name, paid cash. Jamie had lent me, and set up my war room. Carol answered on the third ring, voice groggy. Nora, it's 4 a.m. I know, I'm sorry, but someone tried to change my payroll information. I need your help. Suddenly she was all business. How bad? Unauthorized access through the self-service portal. They tried to redirect my direct deposit. Jesus. Okay, I'm logging in now. I heard keys clicking. I see it. Flagged for review since it came from an unusual IP and time. You want me to block it? Not yet. Can you put enhanced monitoring on my account log, every access attempt, every click, every keystroke, but let them think it's still processing? Nora, why would you want to do that? Because I know who it is, and I want to catch them in the act. Can you do it? Pause. Yeah, I can set that up. Honeypot protocol, we call it. But you'll need to file a formal complaint eventually. I will, with a complete evidence package. Can you also pull all the logs from tonight, IP addresses, device fingerprints, everything? Already copying them. Nora, if someone has unauthorized access to your account, they might try more than just payroll changes. She was right. If Rex had my password, he could access my employee profile, my emergency contacts, maybe even my performance reviews and salary information. Lock down everything except payroll, I said. Make it look like a system glitch if he tries to access anything else. And Carol generate a report of every payroll change attempt in the system for the last 2 years that was flagged or reversed. Looking for a pattern. Looking for previous victims. Rex isn't smart enough to come up with this on his own. Someone taught him how to do this. On it, Nora, be careful, and document everything. Already am. I hung up and opened a new document on my laptop. Time to start building my case file. Case file: unauthorized access and attempted wage theft. Date: current date. Victim: Nora Vale. Primary suspect: Rex Halden, secondary person of interest. Marlene Vale, mother. Timeline of events: 7:45 p.m. Confrontation at residence regarding demand for 60% salary transfer. 8:15 p.m. Physical altercation resulting in bodily injury documented. 8:20 p.m. Departure from residence without personal cell phone. 2:53 a.m. Unauthorized access to Northbrook Dynamics employee portal. 2:54 a.m. Attempted payroll, direct deposit change. 3:47 a.m. Automated HR notification of change request. Evidence collected. 1. Photos of physical injuries timestamp verified. 2. HR system logs showing unauthorized access. 3. IP traced to Halcyon Fix-It computer repair shop. 4. Device fingerprint not matching any of my registered devices. The hotel room's coffee maker gurgled to life as I typed. Dawn was breaking over Stonehaven, painting the sky the color of a fresh bruise. Appropriate. My work phone buzzed. Carol again. You were right about the pattern, she said without preamble. 3 other employees had similar attempts in the past year, all flagged, all reversed, but get this, they all had one thing in common. What? They all listed the same emergency contact at some point: Marlene Vale. My coffee mug slipped, nearly spilling across my keyboard. What? Your mom. She was listed as emergency contact for all three victims. Different relationships. One was her nephew. One was a family friend. One was… Honestly, I can't figure out the connection, but all three had payroll redirect attempts within 6 months of adding her as a contact. The room spun slightly. I set down the mug carefully. Carol, can you send me those files? Already encrypted and heading to your secure drive. Nora, this is bigger than just one attempted theft. This looks organized. Organized, my mother, who claimed she couldn't figure out how to use Netflix, was involved in organized payroll fraud. Thanks, Carol. Keep the monitoring active. And can you check if anyone's accessed the emergency contact section of my profile recently? Checking. Yes. 3 days ago, someone viewed your emergency contacts and exported them to PDF. 3 days ago, before the dinner confrontation, they'd been planning this. Lock it all down, I said. Everything except the payroll honeypot. Already done, Nora. Whatever you're planning, be smart about it. I'm always smart about it. That's been my problem. I hung up and stared at the evidence accumulating on my screen. 3 other victims, all connected to my mother, all attempts reversed when caught, probably explained away as misunderstandings or family issues. But they'd made one crucial error with me. I wasn't just family. I was the one who'd written Northbrook's fraud detection protocols. I knew exactly how to make this stick. My personal phone was still with Rex, but I had other ways to communicate. I logged into my bank's app on my laptop, immediately freezing my debit cards and changing my online banking password. Then I pulled up the chat function. Possible fraud on my account, I typed to the customer service rep. Someone may attempt unauthorized access. Please flag for additional security. While waiting for a response, I opened another browser tab. Time to research my opponents. Rex Halden had quite the digital footprint. 2 bankruptcies, one in Montana and one in Nevada. Multiple addresses over the past 5 years. A LinkedIn profile claiming he was a financial consultant, despite having no certifications or relevant experience. And their public records showed a Marlene Vale as co-signer on a car loan from 2019, defaulted after 3 months. How did I not see this? I muttered, screenshotting everything. Because you weren't looking, a voice in my head answered. Because family meant you turned off your professional instincts at the door. Not anymore, the bank rep responded, confirming additional security on my accounts. I thanked them and moved on to the next task, understanding the full scope of what I was dealing with. The 3 other victims Carol had identified painted a picture. David Reams, my second cousin who'd worked briefly at Northbrook in IT, had his payroll redirected for 2 pay periods before catching it. Lisa Huang, who I vaguely remembered as one of Mom's church friend's daughters. 1 successful redirect before she noticed. Marcus Williams. I didn't know him, but his file showed he'd worked in facilities management. All lower-level employees. All people who might not immediately notice a payroll change or might be too embarrassed to make a fuss about family problems. But there was something else. I cross-referenced the dates of their attempted thefts with Rex's financial records. Each one coincided with a major purchase or debt collection attempt against him. The car loan default lined up with David's theft. Lisa's stolen paycheck matched a casino marker from Reno. Marcus's correlated with an eviction notice. They weren't just stealing, they were stealing to order, based on Rex's immediate needs. My work phone rang. Unknown number. Nora Vale, I answered professionally. Ms. Vale. This is Detective Miranda Chen from Stonehaven PD, Financial Crimes Division. I received a rather interesting automated report from Northbrook Dynamics' security system about unauthorized access attempts. Your name was listed as the victim. Financial crimes, not just regular police. Carol must have triggered a bigger protocol than I'd expected. Yes, Detective. There was an attempted unauthorized payroll change on my account early this morning. I see. And do you know who might have attempted this? Decision point. I could downplay it, handle it myself, or I have strong suspicions, backed by digital evidence. It's connected to a larger pattern of fraud involving multiple victims over the past year. Pause. Ms. Vale, are you in a safe location right now?
Yes, I'm at the downtown Marriott.
Would you be able to come to the station this morning? Bring any documentation you have. If there's a pattern involving multiple victims, we need to move quickly. I can be there in 2 hours. I'm still compiling evidence. That's fine. Ask for me at the desk. And Ms. Vale, if you're not in a safe living situation, we have resources. Thank you. I'll see you soon. I hung up and stared at my laptop screen. This was it. Once I walked into that police station, there was no taking it back. No more keeping the peace or protecting family. But then I thought about David, Lisa, and Marcus. How many others had there been? How many people had my mother fed to Rex's financial needs under the guise of family? I opened a new document and began typing my formal statement. 2 hours later, I sat across from Detective Miranda Chen in a small interview room that smelled like burnt coffee and industrial disinfectant. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that took in every detail of my carefully organized evidence binders. "This is thorough," she said, flipping through the IP logs. "You do this for a living." "Compliance and internal audit. I investigate financial irregularities." "It shows." She paused at the photos of my injuries. "These are from last night." "Yes, after I refused to sign the payroll transfer authorization." "Did you file a report for the assault?" "Not yet. I wanted to establish the financial crimes pattern first." She looked up sharply. "Ms. Vale, domestic violence and financial fraud often go hand in hand. We can pursue both angles." Rex isn't technically domestic. He's my mother's boyfriend. I'm just a rent-paying tenant in their house." "That still qualifies. But let's focus on the fraud first. Walk me through what happened." I did, starting with the dinner confrontation and moving through the early morning unauthorized access. Detective Chen took notes, occasionally asking for clarification. When I showed her the pattern with the other victims, she straightened. "You've identified 3 others, all connected to your mother. All had her listed as emergency contacts shortly before their payroll redirect attempts. All had successful or attempted thefts correlating with Rex Halden's financial obligations. We'll need to contact these individuals, get their statements. I have their employee IDs and last known contact information from our HR system." She studied me. "You're very prepared." "I've been unprepared my whole life when it comes to my family. I'm done with that." "Fair enough. Now, about this honeypot protocol you mentioned. You're allowing continued access to catch them in the act. With full monitoring and logging, every keystroke, every click, my colleague in HR is maintaining the logs with proper chain of custody. Smart, but potentially dangerous, if they realize you're onto them. They won't. Rex thinks he's clever. Using the computer shop's Wi-Fi, he has no idea those sessions are being logged." Detective Chen closed my evidence binder. "I'm going to bring in our cybercrime specialist. This is sophisticated enough to warrant federal attention, especially with the interstate electronic access. Are you prepared for that?" Federal, FBI. The words should have scared me, but they didn't. "I'm prepared." "Good. Can you maintain the honeypot for another 24-48 hours? We'll want to coordinate with your corporate security." "Already arranged. My HR contact is Carol Matthews. She's expecting law enforcement contact." "Excellent." Chen stood. "I'll also need you to file a report about the assault. Different department, but it strengthens the overall case. Shows escalation when you refuse to comply voluntarily." "I can do that." "One more thing. Ms. Vale, in cases like this, suspects often try to contact victims, manipulate them into dropping charges. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about my mother, her inevitable tears and guilt trips. Were family, echoing in my ears. "They can try," I said. By afternoon, things were moving fast. The cybercrime specialist, Agent Park, had taken over the technical aspects of the case. A restraining order request was filed. Corporate security at Northbrook had officially opened an investigation, and somewhere across town, Rex Halden had no idea his world was about to implode. I sat in my hotel room, watching the honeypot logs in real time. There another access attempt, this time from a different IP, but the device fingerprint matched. Rex was trying from another location, probably spooked by the lack of confirmation on the payroll change. My work phone buzzed. Carol? He's in the system again, she said. Different location, looks like a library this time. He's trying to check the status of the payroll change. Let him look. What's he seeing? Status pending additional verification. Just like we set up, he's clicking around, looking for a way to expedite it. Good. Agent Park is monitoring too. Every click is evidence. Nora, he just tried to access your performance reviews. The system blocked it like we programmed, but he's definitely fishing for information. Probably trying to figure out my exact salary. He only knows my net pay from the stub. This is so messed up. Your own family. Former family, I corrected. Family doesn't do this. After I hung up, I allowed myself a moment of grief. Not for Rex, he was exactly who I'd always suspected him to be, but for my mother, for the relationship we'd never really had, built on obligation rather than genuine care. For the realization that she'd been complicit in victimizing others long before it was my turn. My laptop chimed, new email, from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line made my blood run cold. We need to talk, Mom. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. Nora, I know you're upset, but involving the police, really, we're family. Rex made a mistake. He was desperate. You know how hard it's been for him to find work. If you would just come home, we can sort this out like adults. Don't ruin his life over a misunderstanding. Don't ruin our lives. You owe me that much. P.S. I know you're at the Marriott, room 412. We drove by and saw your car. Please come home before this goes too far. They knew where I was. Of course they did. I'd been too focused on digital security to think about physical surveillance. I forwarded the email to Detective Chen immediately, then called the front desk. This is room 412. I need to report a security concern. Can you send someone up? While waiting, I quickly packed my laptop and evidence binders. The email was perfectly crafted manipulation guilt, minimization, veiled threats, but the postscript was what concerned me. They were watching, waiting. Hotel security arrived within minutes, followed shortly by Detective Chen herself. They're escalating, she said, reading the email. Knowing your location, contacting you despite the pending restraining order, this isn't good. Should I move hotels? We can do better. There's a women's shelter with enhanced security, or... She hesitated. How do you feel about being bait? I'm already bait, the honeypot. No, I mean physical bait, controlled circumstances. If they're desperate enough to surveil you, they might be desperate enough to approach directly. We could be ready. I thought about it. Rex was getting bolder, probably pushed by mounting debts and the pending payroll change that wasn't completing. My mother was clearly all in on supporting him. They might do something stupid. What would that involve? You go somewhere public but predictable. We have undercover officers nearby. If they approach, we document everything. If they violate the restraining order, which will be served within the hour, we arrest on the spot. And if they don't approach, then we continue building the fraud case. But honestly, desperate people make mistakes. And from that email, they're desperate. I closed my eyes, thinking. Then I remembered something. Tomorrow is Wednesday, I said. I always get coffee at the Starbucks on 5th Street before work. 7:30 a.m., like clockwork. They know this. Chen smiled grimly. Perfect. Let's set it up. The next morning, I sat at my usual corner table at Starbucks, laptop open, appearing to work. My vanilla latte cooled untouched as I watched the reflection in my screen. 2 undercover officers were at nearby tables. Detective Chen was in a van outside. 7:35 a.m., nothing. 7:40 a.m., a familiar car pulled up outside. Rex's ancient Camaro, more rust than metal. Visual confirmation, Chen's voice crackled through the earpiece they'd given me. Suspect vehicle approaching. Maintain position. Rex got out first. scanning the coffee shop through the windows. He looked rough, unshaven, clothes wrinkled. Behind him, my mother emerged, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast morning. "They're coming in," I murmured, typing gibberish to look busy. The bell over the door chimed. I didn't look up. "Nora," my mother's voice, right beside my table. "We need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you," I kept typing. "And you're violating a restraining order by being here." "That's bullshit paperwork," Rex growled, pulling out the chair across from me. "We're family. We don't need cops and lawyers." "Suspect is sitting down," I reported quietly. "Making contact?" "Don't do this," my mother pleaded. "Just come outside. We'll talk in the car. Work this out like family." "Family?" I finally looked up, meeting her eyes. "Is that what you told David Reams, Lisa Huang, Marcus Williams? Were they family too when you helped steal their paychecks?" My mother's face went white. Rex's went red. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snarled. "IP addresses don't lie. Rex, neither do device fingerprints, or security cameras at Halcyon Fixit, or the library on Maple Street where you tried again yesterday. You're recording this?" Not a question. Rex's eyes darted around, probably looking for the wire he'd seen in movies. "I don't need to. You're violating a restraining order in a public place with security cameras. That's enough." "Please," my mother tried again. "Just withdraw the complaint. We'll leave you alone. You'll never see us again." "Like you left David alone?" "Oh wait, you didn't. You hit him up again 6 months later. I have the logs." Rex stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "You stuck-up bitch. You think you're better than us? You think your fancy job makes you special?" "No," I said calmly. "I think my fancy job makes me capable of documenting your crimes properly." He lunged across the table. Several things happened simultaneously. My laptop went flying. Coffee spilled everywhere. Rex's hands reached for me, and then he was on the ground. 2 undercover officers restraining him. "Rex Halden, you're under arrest for violation of a protective order and attempted assault," one officer said, producing handcuffs. My mother stood frozen, mouth open. Then she turned on me. "How could you?" she shrieked. "He's your father." "He's not my father. He's not even your husband. He's a con artist who's been using you to identify marks for over a year." "That's not we never—" "Save it for your statement," Detective Chen said, appearing at my mother's elbow. "Marlene Vale, we need you to come with us for questioning regarding multiple counts of fraud and identity theft." "I want a lawyer," my mother said faintly. "That's your right. Let's go." As they led them out, Rex still struggling and cursing. My mother looked back at me once. Her sunglasses had fallen off, and her eyes were full of tears. "We're family," she mouthed. I turned away and began collecting my coffee-soaked laptop. The federal case that followed was almost anticlimactic compared to that scene in Starbucks. Agent Park and his team descended on the evidence like digital archaeologists, reconstructing every attempted theft, every unauthorized access, every connection in the network my mother and Rex had built. It turned out to be bigger than even I'd suspected. 7 victims total, across 3 different companies where my mother had connections. Over $45,000 successfully stolen before I'd blown the whistle. Rex had 2 partners, the owner of Halcyon Fixit, and a cousin who worked at a check cashing place who helped launder the money. I sat in conference rooms and gave depositions. I testified to grand juries. I provided system logs and audit trails and witness statements. The case was airtight, built on digital evidence that couldn't be explained away or minimized. Rex pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence, 3 to 5 years federal time, plus restitution to all victims. The Halcyon Fixit owner got 2 years. The cousin got probation and community service. My mother's case was more complex. Her lawyer argued manipulation, coercion, financial abuse. The prosecutor argued willing participation, evidenced by her recruiting victims from her social circle. In the end, she pled to lesser charges, conspiracy and fraud under $10,000. 18 months, likely out in 9 with good behavior. The day of her sentencing, she asked to speak to me. Against my lawyer's advice, I agreed. She looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit, older. The confident woman who'd stood behind Rex that night in the kitchen was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "I need you to understand," she began. "I never meant for it to go this far." "So you only meant to steal a little bit from your family and friends?" "I was trying to help him. He said he just needed to get back on his feet. That once he had some capital, he could start his consulting business, pay everyone back with interest. You believed that—" I loved him. Simple, honest, pathetic. "You chose him over me, over David, over Lisa, over everyone who trusted you. We're family." "Stop," I held up my hand. "That word has been weaponized enough. We share DNA, that's all." "So that's it. 28 years of raising you. And you're just done." I thought about those 28 years. The emotional manipulation disguised as love. The financial abuse disguised as family obligation. The way she'd groomed me to be compliant, to prioritize her needs over mine. "You didn't raise me," I said. "You trained me to be your retirement plan. There's a difference. I'm still your mother. Biology doesn't grant you unlimited access to my life or my bank account. It doesn't give you the right to steal from me or use me to steal from others. So what now? You'll visit me in prison, send birthday cards. No, after today, we're done. Your emergency contact at the facility is Jamie. She volunteered, though I can't imagine why. Don't contact me when you get out. Nora, please." "Goodbye, Marlene." I walked out while she was still talking. The Northbrook Dynamics boardroom had never seen a presentation quite like mine. 12 slides documenting how our own HR systems had been used against employees, how a simple emergency contact update could be weaponized, how our self-service portal's password reset function had vulnerabilities when accessed through compromised personal emails. The good news, I told the assembled executives, is that our logging systems worked perfectly. Every unauthorized access was recorded. The audit trail was intact. We caught this because our back-end security is solid. The bad news, the chief security officer interjected, is that we allowed it to happen in the first place. Yes, which is why I'm proposing these changes. I clicked to my recommendations slide. 2-factor authentication for all payroll changes, biometric confirmation for amounts over a certain threshold, flag patterns where multiple employees list the same emergency contact, and most importantly, financial wellness education for employees, including how to recognize and report potential fraud, even from family members. The CEO leaned forward. "Especially from family members, you mean?" "Statistically, financial abuse is most likely to come from someone the victim knows and trusts. We need to acknowledge that in our training. Draw up a full proposal, whatever resources you need." As I left the boardroom, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: professional pride unmarred by personal guilt. I was good at my job. I'd always been good at it. I'd just been too busy subsidizing Rex's schemes to notice. My new apartment in Riverside Heights smelled like fresh paint and possibility. No more cramped bedrooms in houses that reeked of burnt coffee and disappointment. No more walking on eggshells, calculating how much of my paycheck I could keep for myself. Jamie helped me hang pictures, real art I'd bought myself, not garage sale cast-offs. "You know Mom's getting out next month," she said carefully, adjusting a frame. "I know." "She's been writing me letters. Lots of therapy speak about breaking cycles and making amends." "Good for her." "You don't believe it." I considered my answer. I believe she believes it, right now. But when she gets out, when money gets tight, when she meets the next Rex, the pattern will reassert itself. It always does. "So you're really done, no second chances?" I gave her 28 years of chances. That's enough. Jamie nodded, understanding. We'd both survived Marlene Vale in our own ways, she by fighting back, me by compliance. Neither strategy had protected us from the underlying dysfunction. "For what it's worth," Jamie said, "I'm proud of you. What you did took guts. What I did took spreadsheets. Guts would have been leaving years ago." "Hey." She waited until I looked at her. "You left when you were ready. That's what matters." My work phone buzzed.
Carol from HR. Hey, Nora. Wanted to give you a heads up. We just flagged another suspicious payroll change attempt. Different employee, same pattern. They listed a new emergency contact last month. Now there's an attempt to redirect their deposit. Send me the details. I'll look into it. Already sent. And Nora. The employee wants to drop it. Says it's a family matter. Of course they did. That's how it worked, shame and obligation weaponized against victims. Set up a meeting. I'll talk to them. You sure it's not technically your department? It's everyone's department. That's what we learned. I hung up and looked at Jamie. Another case. Another family thinking employment equals ATM. You going to help? Yeah. Someone help me see the pattern. Least I can do is pay it forward. Look at you. Crusading against financial fraud one family at a time. Someone has to. Might as well be someone who survived it. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, good wine. Not the cheap stuff I used to buy because spending money on myself felt selfish. The city sparkled below, full of families both functional and dysfunctional, full of people navigating the complex intersection of love and money. My phone sat silent on the table. No guilt trip texts, no demands for bail money, no "we're family" wielded like a weapon. In the distance, a siren wailed police or ambulance, rushing to help someone in crisis. Once, that might have been me, bruised and limping from another confrontation about money. Now, I was the one who could help, armed with knowledge and experience and a hard-won understanding of how family could be used against you. I raised my glass to the night sky, to the 3 years Rex would spend in federal prison, to the victims who'd get restitution, to the family I'd chosen instead of the one I'd been born into. We're family, I said to the empty air, reclaiming the words. And family has boundaries. The wine tasted like freedom. 6 months later, I stood before another boardroom, this time at the Federal Trade Commission in Washington. D.C. They'd invited me to testify about family-based financial fraud, part of their initiative to update consumer protection guidelines. The current systems assume fraud is committed by strangers. I explained to the panel. But statistically, people are most vulnerable to those they trust. Family members have access to personal information, social security numbers, birth dates, mothers' maiden names. They know our routines, our passwords, our security questions, and most importantly, they know exactly which emotional buttons to push. Commissioner Bradley nodded. Your case file mentions something about emergency contacts being used as a targeting mechanism. Can you elaborate? Certainly. I pulled up my slide showing the pattern. In our investigation, we found that perpetrators would identify victims through emergency contact listings. It's brilliant in its simplicity. If someone lists you as an emergency contact, they trust you. That trust can be exploited. What do you recommend? First, businesses need to flag patterns. If multiple employees across different companies list the same emergency contact, that's a red flag. Second, financial education needs to explicitly address family fraud. People need to hear that it's okay to say no to family, that protecting your financial security isn't selfish, it's necessary. You mention in your written testimony that victims often don't report family fraud. Why? I thought about all those months of keeping the peace, of being told I owed them for basic parenting. Shame, guilt, fear of being seen as a bad daughter or son. Cultural pressure that says family problems stay in the family. And often, financial abuse is paired with emotional manipulation. Victims are conditioned to prioritize their abuser's needs over their own. Like your mother did to you. Exactly. It took me 28 years to recognize it as abuse. I had a master's degree in accounting, investigated fraud professionally, and still couldn't see it in my own life. That's how powerful the conditioning is. After the hearing, one of the commissioner's aides approached me. That was powerful testimony. Ms. Vale, we're drafting new guidelines for financial institutions. Would you be willing to consult? Of course. Also, she hesitated. My sister is going through something similar. Her ex-husband, but the patterns are the same. Could I give her your contact information? And there it was, the ripple effect. Every person who heard my story recognized someone in their own life, a parent, a sibling, a partner who treated them like a personal ATM. "Please do," I said. "Tell her she's not alone, and tell her that family, real family, doesn't require a withdrawal slip." My hotel room phone rang late that night. "Jamie." "You're not going to believe this," she said without preamble. "Mom got early release. Good behavior." I sat on the bed, waiting for the familiar spike of anxiety. It didn't come. And she's already hooked up with some new guy, Gerald something, met him in her court-mandated therapy group. Let me guess he needs help with a business opportunity. Close. He needs investors for his revolutionary new app. Mom's been calling her old contacts, trying to set up meetings. "Has she called you?" 3 times. I blocked her after she asked if I still had access to my ex's credit report. I actually laughed. Some people never changed. "What about the letters?" I asked. "All that therapy speak about breaking cycles." Apparently, the cycle she wanted to break was getting caught. She's being more careful this time, using burner phones, meeting people in person instead of leaving digital trails. She learned from her mistakes, just not the right lessons. "You okay? I know you're in D.C. testifying about all this." "I'm fine, better than fine. Her choices don't affect me anymore." "Really?" "Really. She can run all the schemes she wants. I'm not her emergency contact, her reference, or her safety net. That's Gerald's problem now." Poor Gerald. Poor Gerald's next victim, more likely. But that's not our responsibility either. We talked for a few more minutes about Jamie's new job, about my consulting work, about normal things that had nothing to do with our mother's latest grift. It felt good, clean. After we hung up, I stood at the window looking out at the D.C. skyline. Somewhere out there, in cities and towns across the country, people were sitting at kitchen tables being told they were selfish for not sharing their paychecks. They were being made to feel guilty for having boundaries. They were being bruised physically and emotionally for saying no to family. But also out there were the survivors, people who'd recognized the pattern, who'd chosen their own financial security over manipulative relationships, people who'd learned that love shouldn't come with a price tag. My testimony would become part of new federal guidelines. My story would help others recognize the red flags. The audit trail I'd built would become a template for prosecuting family fraud. Rex would serve his full sentence, no early release for him, after he'd gotten into a fight with another inmate over a gambling debt. My mother would eventually get caught in her new scheme, probably when Gerald realized he was being played too. The Halcyon Fix-It owner's shop would close, his reputation destroyed by association with the fraud. And me, I'd keep building my life on my own terms. I'd keep helping others escape their own Rex Haldens. I'd keep proving that family wasn't about blood or obligation or guilt. Family was about choice, and I'd chosen freedom. The federal guidelines were published 3 months later. They included a section on affinity fraud crimes committed by those in positions of trust. My case was cited as Example 17B. Names redacted, but pattern clear emergency contacts weaponized. Payroll systems exploited. Family bonds used as cover for theft. Carol from HR called to congratulate me. "You're famous." Well, anonymously famous. That's the best kind. How's the new security protocol working? 17 attempted frauds flagged in the first month. 3 were family-related. Your training module is making a difference. 17 people who wouldn't lose their paychecks to predatory relatives. 17 families where boundaries might actually hold. Any pushback, I asked? Some. A few employees complained that we're encouraging people to be suspicious of their own families. Good. They should be suspicious. Trust but verify. Especially with family. That's cold, Nora. No, that's realistic. The people who complain about these protections are usually the ones who benefit from their absence. It was true. In the months since implementing our new protocols, we discovered a disturbing pattern. The loudest opponents of our financial security measures were often the same people listed as emergency contacts for multiple employees, the same people who'd previously had temporary access to relatives' accounts, the same people who believed family meant unlimited financial access. My work phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number.
Nora, this is your mother. I know you've blocked my regular number, but I need you to know something. What happened with Rex wasn't my fault. He manipulated me, used me. I'm in therapy now, really working on myself. Gerald is different. He's helping me heal. Maybe we could have coffee. Start over. We're family. I stared at the message. Same manipulation, slightly updated vocabulary. Healing instead of helping. Start over instead of forget the past. But underneath, the same goal access. I forwarded the message to Detective Chen with a note. She's using burner phones now. Might want to check if Gerald has any fraud history. Chen replied within minutes. Already on it. Gerald Hoffman. 3 arrests for check kiting. Your mom sure has a type. I blocked the burner number and went back to reviewing the latest batch of fraud attempts. A son trying to redirect his elderly mother's Social Security. A sister-in-law attempting to access her brother's workers' comp settlement. A stepfather. I paused. The details were eerily familiar. Young professional. Compliance background. Stepfather demanding significant portion of salary. The only difference, this victim was fighting back from the start, having taken our training module. I picked up my phone and called the employee directly. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Nora Vale from Corporate Security. I understand you've flagged a potential fraud attempt. Yes, her voice was steady but strained. My stepfather is demanding I sign over 40% of my salary. When I refused, he got physical. Are you safe now? Yes, I'm at a hotel. I remembered your training video document everything. Establish physical safety. Report immediately. Good. You did exactly right. Can you come to the office tomorrow? We'll walk through the complete protocol. Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was overreacting. He keeps saying we're family. Family doesn't entitle anyone to your paycheck. Period. We'll help you through this. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair. Another Rex, another victim, another family weaponizing love for financial gain. But this time, the victim knew the playbook. This time, she had resources and support from the start. The cycle could be broken, one documented fraud at a time. Later that evening, I met Jamie for dinner at our favorite Thai place. She was scrolling through her phone when I arrived, frowning. Let me guess, I said, sliding into the booth. Mom found your new number too. Worse, she showed up at my gym. Seriously? With Gerald, they wanted to present me with a business opportunity. Apparently, I could get in on the ground floor of his app for only $10,000. Please tell me you got security footage. Already sent to Detective Chen. Mom's violating her parole conditions by approaching former victims. We ordered our usual pad thai for me, drunken noodles for Jamie, comfort food for uncomfortable realities. You know what the sick part is, Jamie said. For about 30 seconds, I felt guilty for walking away. That little voice saying she's your mother started up. The programming runs deep. How'd you break it? Really break it? Not just intellectually understand it. I thought about that morning in Starbucks, watching my mother and Rex get arrested, the moment I'd chosen evidence over emotion. I stopped seeing her as my mother and started seeing her as what she really was, a con artist who happened to give birth to me. Once I reframed it as a professional crime instead of a personal betrayal, it got easier. That's, Jamie paused, actually brilliant and really sad. Both things can be true. Our food arrived, steaming and fragrant. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. 2 survivors sharing a meal and the understanding that came from parallel experiences. I'm thinking of starting a support group, Jamie said eventually. For people dealing with financial abuse from family, would you help? Of course, though I'm better with spreadsheets than feelings. That's exactly why you'd be perfect. People need practical tools, not just emotional support. They need to know how to document, how to report, how to protect themselves legally and financially. When would you start? Next month. I've already talked to the community center. They'll give us space for free. Count me in. As we split the check evenly, transparently,
With no guilt or manipulation, I realized how far we'd both come. From a family where money meant control to chosen relationships based on mutual respect. From victims to advocates. From silence to stories that could help others. My phone buzzed. Carol again. Sorry to bother you at dinner, but thought you'd want to know. Remember that employee from earlier, Ms. Rodriguez? Her stepfather just tried to access her employee portal from a library computer. Our honeypot caught him. Send me the logs. I'll review them tonight. Already in your secure folder, Nora. Thank you for everything you've built here. It's making a real difference. I hung up and found Jamie smiling at me. What? Nothing. Just look at you. From victim to protector in less than a year. We all become what we needed when we were going through it. Fortune cookie wisdom. Hard-won experience, totally different thing. That night, reviewing the logs from Ms. Rodriguez's case, I saw all the familiar patterns, the late-night access attempts, the IP addresses from public computers, the desperate clicking through screens looking for financial information. Another Rex, another trap, another family thinking employment came with strings attached. But this time was different. This time, the system was ready. The victim was prepared. The support structure was in place. I drafted my report for the morning, outlining the evidence and recommended next steps. As I typed, I thought about all the future victims who might be spared because we'd learned from my case, all the paychecks that would go to their rightful owners, all the families who would learn that love and money were separate currencies. My mother was out there somewhere, probably spinning her sob story to Gerald's potential investors. Rex was in federal prison, likely running some commissary scam on newer inmates. The owner of Halcyon Fix-It had lost his business and reputation. And me, I was here, building something better from the wreckage they'd created, using my scars as a map for others to navigate their own escapes. The report finished. I closed my laptop and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new victims finding their voices, new predators learning that family bonds weren't blank checks. But tonight, I'd sleep soundly in my apartment that no one else had keys to, with bank accounts no one else could access, surrounded by the life I'd built on my own terms. We're family had once been a weapon used against me. Now it was a red flag I taught others to recognize. And that transformation from victim to educator, from target to protector, was the greatest revenge of all. The support group met for the first time on a rainy Thursday evening. 7 people sat in the community center's small meeting room, looking uncomfortable and uncertain. I recognized the expression, the same one I'd worn for years, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Jamie opened with introductions, keeping it simple. First names only, no pressure to share details. When it came my turn, I kept it brief. I'm Nora. My mother and her boyfriend stole from me and others. I work in corporate security now, helping prevent employee fraud. Simple words for a complex betrayal, but that was the point to show it could be named, contained, survived. The stories that followed were achingly familiar. A father draining his daughter's college fund, a brother-in-law using his sister's credit to start a business, a grandmother guilt-tripping her grandson into co-signing loans he couldn't afford. The hardest part, one woman said, tears streaming, is that everyone says I should forgive him because he's family. Like that excuses everything. Forgiveness is a personal choice, Jamie said gently, but forgiveness doesn't mean giving them continued access to harm you. You can forgive from a distance, with blocked numbers and changed passwords. I pulled out the resource packets I'd prepared, practical guides to financial protection. These are tools, password managers, credit monitoring services, how to freeze your credit, how to document financial abuse, how to file police reports. Will the police even care? A young man asked. My cousin says it's a family matter. Your cousin is wrong. Theft is theft. Fraud is fraud. The relationship between perpetrator and victim doesn't change the crime, it just makes it easier to commit and harder to report. But what if they go to jail? I don't want my dad in prison. I just want him to stop. The room fell silent. This was the heart of it, the impossible balance between justice and family loyalty. I can't tell you what to do, I said carefully. But I can tell you that in my experience, they don't stop until there are consequences. Real ones, not promises or tears or temporary remorse. Consequences. Did your mom go to jail? 18 months. She's out now, running new schemes with a new partner. But she's not my problem anymore. That's the difference consequences make. They clarify boundaries. After the meeting, a woman approached me, mid-50s, professional appearance, nervous energy. My son, she began, then stopped, started again. My adult son has been taking money from my accounts, says he needs it for rehab, but I know he's using. I want to help him, but enabling isn't helping. Yes, exactly. My therapist says I need boundaries. But how do you set boundaries with someone you love? The same way you set them with anyone else, clearly, consistently, and with consequences for violations. Love doesn't mean unlimited access to your finances. She nodded, tears threatening. Could I schedule a consultation with you professionally? I need help protecting my retirement accounts. Of course. And so it grew. The support group expanded from 7 to 15 to overflowing. My consulting practice developed organically, survivors wanting practical help securing their finances against family predators, corporate clients seeking better fraud prevention protocols. 1 year after Rex's arrest, I received an unexpected call. Ms. Vale. This is Warden Peterson from FCI Victorville. Rex Halden has listed you as a potential visitor. Are you? No. I haven't explained why he. The answer is no. Remove me from any contact lists. Thank you. I hung up before he could continue. Rex wanted something money for commissary, help with an appeal, someone to manipulate. The specifics didn't matter. That evening, Detective Chen called with an update. Thought you'd want to know we just arrested your mother and Gerald Hoffman. Investment fraud scheme targeting elderly victims at senior centers. Your mother was posing as a financial advisor. Of course she was. She had a notebook with your contact information, current employer, new address, everything. Might want to increase your security measures. Already on it. I'd learned to stay 3 steps ahead. Security cameras at my apartment, regular credit monitoring, background checks on anyone who got close to my financial information. Some might call it paranoid. I called it learned vigilance. That night, I updated our support group's curriculum with a new module, When They Get Out, Maintaining Safety After Consequences. Because the betrayal didn't end with arrest or conviction. It evolved, adapted, found new channels. But so did we. Ms. Rodriguez stopped by my office the next week, smiling broadly. Wanted to thank you in person, she said. My stepfather pled guilty, 2 years probation, restitution ordered, and my mom finally sees who he really is. That's wonderful. How are you doing? Better. Therapy helps. Your support group helps more. There's something about being in a room with people who get it. You know. I did know. The isolation of family financial abuse was part of its power. The shame that kept victims silent. The guilt that made them comply. But together, comparing notes and sharing resources, we broke that isolation. Any word on whether he's appealing? He threatened to, but his lawyer told him the evidence was overwhelming. Those system logs you taught me to save game changers. Documentation usually is. After she left, I looked at my calendar. Consultation with a small business about employee fraud prevention. Meeting with the Federal Commission about expanding our guidelines. Support group session on setting holiday boundaries. A far cry from that night I'd fled my mother's house, bruised and betrayed, but directly connected to it. Every person I helped was a small victory over the voices that said family meant unlimited access. Every fraud prevented was proof that patterns could be broken. My work phone rang. Unknown number. Nora Vale. Ms. Vale, this is Nancy Williams. You helped my husband Marcus when Rex Halden stole his paychecks. I wanted to thank you, and to ask, I think my sister is being financially abused by her children. Could you help? And so it continued, each survivor becoming a beacon for others. Each story shared, making the next person's escape a little easier. We're family remained a powerful weapon in the hands of financial predators, but we were building an arsenal of our own documentation, boundaries, support systems, legal consequences. Most importantly, we were redefining family itself, not as an obligation to give until we had nothing left, but as a choice to support each other's growth and independence. My phone buzzed. Text from Jamie. Mom's bail hearing is tomorrow. Want me to go and report back? I considered it. Part of me was curious what new story she'd spin, what new manipulation she'd attempt, but that part was small and getting smaller. No thanks. I have a life to live that has nothing to do with her choices. Fair enough? Wine later. Absolutely. I put the phone away and returned to my work. Somewhere. My mother was probably convincing Gerald that this arrest was all a misunderstanding. Rex was likely running a con on his cellmate. Their patterns would continue until they couldn't. But I had patterns of my own now. Patterns of protection, education, empowerment. Patterns that turned victims into survivors and survivors into advocates. The greatest revenge wasn't seeing them punished, though that had its satisfactions. The greatest revenge was building a life so full, so purposeful, that their betrayals became footnotes rather than headlines. My computer dinged. New email from a Fortune 500 company, asking if I'd develop a fraud prevention program for their employees. Big money, bigger impact. I smiled and began typing my response. Every day took me further from that kitchen confrontation, that 3 a.m. email, that moment when "we're family" was supposed to make me comply. Instead, it had made me an expert in saying no, and teaching others to say it too. The revolution was quiet, fought in conference rooms and community centers, in police reports and password changes, but it was real, and it was winning. One documented fraud at a time. 2 years had passed since that night in my mother's kitchen. 2 years of building, growing, helping others escape their own versions of Rex and Marlene. My consulting firm, Secure Family Solutions, now had 3 employees and more clients than we could handle. The irony wasn't lost on me. My mother had tried to steal my paychecks. Now I made my living preventing others from doing the same. "We need to expand," said David Chen, my newest hire and, coincidentally, Detective Chen's younger brother. "The waitlist for consultations is 2 months out." "I know. I'm interviewing candidates this week." "Any promising leads?" "Actually, yes. A woman named Sarah Martinez, 10 years in banking fraud prevention, and—" I paused, deciding whether to share the personal connection. "She's a survivor too. Ex-husband drained their accounts during the divorce, used their kids as leverage." "The personal experience matters," David said. "You can't teach that kind of vigilance." He was right. Every effective member of our team had their own story, their own moment of realizing family could be the enemy. It gave us credibility that no amount of degrees or certifications could match. My phone rang. Carol from Northbrook, now VP of Human Resources, partly due to her handling of our original case. "Nora, I have an unusual request. We have an employee whose elderly parents are being scammed, not by family, but the employee is convinced her brother is involved somehow. Could you look into it? Send me the details. We'll start with a consultation." This was how it often worked now. Financial abuse rarely existed in isolation. Where there was one predator, there were usually more, circling like sharks around anyone with assets or access. That afternoon, I met with the employee, Jennifer Liu. She sat across from my desk, wringing her hands. "My parents are sending money to someone they met online. Says he's investing it for them. Classic romance scam, right? But here's the thing, my brother Tommy suddenly has a new car, new clothes, and he's the one who helped them set up the wire transfers. What does Tommy say about his sudden windfall? New job, but he won't say where, and he gets angry when I ask about Mom and Dad's finances." I pulled out my intake form. "Let's start with what you know for sure. Documents, dates, amounts." As Jennifer talked, the pattern emerged. Classic elder abuse with a twist, the inside facilitator. Tommy wasn't the scammer, but he was getting kickbacks for providing access and maintaining the scheme. He keeps saying I'm being paranoid, Jennifer said, that I'm jealous of his success, that I should trust him because you're family, I finished. Exactly. How did you know? It's always the same script. Family means trust us blindly. Family means don't ask questions. Family means enable our crimes. So what do I do? First, we secure your parents' remaining assets. Then we document everything. Then, if you're ready, we involve law enforcement. But Tommy could go to jail. Tommy is actively participating in stealing your parents' retirement. He's already chosen consequences over family. Jennifer's case reminded me why I'd expanded beyond corporate consulting. Family financial abuse took many forms: elder abuse, romance scams with family facilitators, inheritance theft. The players changed, but the playbook remained the same: exploit trust, invoke family loyalty, gaslight anyone who questioned the situation. That evening, I attended our support group's 2-year anniversary meeting. The community center had given us their largest room, and we'd filled it. 60 people, all at different stages of their journey from victim to survivor. Jamie had become a gifted facilitator, knowing when to push and when to simply listen. I handled the practical workshops this week was estate planning that protects against family fraud. The thing about wills, I explained to the group, is that they're only as strong as the executor's integrity. If you don't trust your family with your money while you're alive, don't trust them with it after you're gone. A hand went up, but who else would I choose? Family is supposed to handle family matters. Says who? You can name a bank, a lawyer, a trusted friend. You can require multiple executors who must agree on decisions. You can create trusts with professional trustees. Family is not automatically entitled to control your legacy. After the meeting, I was packing up when a familiar figure approached. It took me a moment to recognize him: David Reams, my second cousin and one of Rex's early victims. Nora, I heard you were doing this. I wanted to thank you. David, how are you? Good, really good. Got promoted to IT manager. Married last year. Life's on track. He paused. I heard about Aunt Marlene getting arrested again. News travels. She tried to contact me. From prison, wanted me to put money on her books. Said we were family, and family helps each other. What did you do? Reported it to the prison. Violation of her no-contact order with former victims. He smiled grimly. Learned that from you. Document everything. Report everything. Let the system handle it. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. All of us who got out, who said no, who refused to be ATMs with family passwords. After David left, I sat in the empty room for a moment. 2 years ago, I'd felt so alone. Now there was a community, a movement almost, of people refusing to be financially abused by those who claimed to love them. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is your mother. I know you won't read this, but I'm dying. Cancer. 3 months left. I need to see you before I go. Please. I stared at the message. Classic manipulation: terminal illness, time pressure, emotional appeal. I'd seen it dozens of times in other cases. The dying relative who miraculously recovered once the money was sent. I forwarded it to Detective Chen with a note. New number, same games. Her response was immediate. Your mother's in perfect health. Just had her prison physical. This is probably a setup for a compassionate release scam. Of course it was. Even facing actual consequences, she couldn't stop running cons. It was who she was, down to her core. I blocked the number and went home. My apartment had evolved from a refuge to a headquarters. 1 bedroom converted to an office. Walls covered with flowcharts showing common fraud patterns. My laptop sat open on the dining table. Security protocols automatically locking it after 5 minutes of inactivity. I poured a glass of wine, still good wine, because I was worth it, and opened my case files. Jennifer Liu's parents, a teacher whose son was stealing her identity, a small business owner whose family had infiltrated her company. Each case was unique but followed predictable patterns. The key was teaching people to see those patterns before they lost everything. My secure phone rang. Sarah Martinez, The candidate I'd mentioned to David, Ms. Vale. I'm sorry to call so late, but I just got a call from my ex-husband. He's threatening to report me to my current employer. Says I stole from him during our marriage. It's all lies. But he's counting on your fear to make you pay him to stay quiet. Classic extortion. Are you recording? No. Should I be? If your state allows single-party consent, yes, document everything. Don't engage beyond the bare minimum. And Sarah. This doesn't affect your candidacy with us. If anything, it confirms you understand what our clients face. Thank you. I was terrified you'd withdraw the offer. We don't punish victims for being targeted. We help them fight back. After walking her through the initial steps, I hung up and made a note to add an extortion module to our training. Family financial abuse rarely stopped at simple theft. It evolved into blackmail, extortion, ongoing manipulation. But we evolved too. Every new tactic they tried became a case study. Every sob story became a teaching tool. Every manipulation attempt strengthened our defenses. I thought about my mother's fake cancer text 2 years ago. It might have worked. The guilt might have overwhelmed my logic. I might have wondered, what if it's true, and given her the benefit of the doubt. Now I knew better. When someone showed you who they were through actions, not words, you believed them. And my mother had shown me she was someone who would weaponize anything, including death, for financial gain. The next morning brought a breakthrough in Jennifer Liu's case. Her brother had made a crucial mistake. He'd used his work computer to access the scammer's cryptocurrency wallet. Digital breadcrumbs leading directly back.